Welcome everyone to Coaching This Session. My name is Michael Rearden and I'll be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about how the mind interprets different things. And if we think about what the mind does, it does everything. But it also gets in our way too. So let's take a look at how our mind gets in the way so we can stop that and mitigate how much that happens and maybe start to implement ways where maybe it doesn't get in our way, but rather helps propel us toward our goals and our dreams. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to always share this video and or audio to help build a like-minded community of individuals to get to a more positive state of mind. As many of you are probably aware, Mondays are going to be the day where we talk about my most recent blog. And the most recent blog that came out is going to be talking about how our mind interprets different things. To focus on what we're going to be talking about today is going to be our upbringing. What makes a kid decide that they want to be successful or that they don't want a certain thing in their life? What factors do they have to look at in order for them to change their circumstances? When I was younger, looking at my life, it could have been good or could have been bad. I could have decided to be in a gang, sell drugs, and to do all those negative things, but I took the higher road and went to college, got an education, started a career teaching, and then went on to start my own business. And then what you probably don't see is that all the other things that I do beyond what coaching a session is. So that is going to include other business ventures, other tasks that need my attention every single day. Because in my life, I plan on making a difference. Whether it's going to take 1 day, 2 days, 1 year, 2 years, it doesn't necessarily matter how long it's going to take me, but I understand that I'm trying to do something in life, and it's not going to be as easy as sitting on the sofa and hoping all my dreams become fulfilled automatically. And I understand that I'm going to have to put in a huge amount of energy and effort and dedication for my dreams, for my goals. But that's the beauty of life. Many people run from this hard work and this challenge. Instead of running away from it, we need to start to steer our mindset and run toward those type of energy pits where those energy pits are going to actually be helping us get to our dreams. Many people think that wasting energy is going to be a bad thing. Well, it depends how we do it. It's all a mindset thing. Some people, sometimes they tell me, they say, well, I don't want to go to the gym because I'm going to feel tired. I don't think I feel tired after the gym. Most of the time when I leave the gym in the morning, I feel energetic and ready for the day. I might be sweaty. I might be out of breath, but the last thing I am is tired. I don't need a nap. After the gym, I'm ready for my day. So the gym doesn't make you tired. Your mind does. Your mind is saying that you're going to be tired. And maybe in the beginning you will be tired. But again, are you ready? Are you willing? Are you able to change that circumstance for yourself? Many aren't. So let's get into that blog that talks about the interpretation of mindset. So the interpretation of mindset is going to be talking about how we view a situation, a scenario in our life, and what do we do about it. Similar to how I said, well, why was my circumstances of growing up in the ghetto not me ending up being in the ghetto? There's many theories that can be talked about of why that is the case. But in order to understand this a little bit deeper, let's first take a look at some individuals who had rough childhoods or rough circumstances, but they decided to be more. So our first person we're going to talk about is 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson. Now, he was going to be the type of person who could have been up on the blocks and could have been selling dope and all of those negative things, but he decided to make something out of his life. He started a company, Vitamin Water, and he sold it to Coca-Cola for quite some money. And from there, he was able to create wealth. It was not so much of, all right, let me be the cool kid on the block anymore and to buy all these chains. He decided he wanted something more than his circumstances. He was determined to create something more. So his circumstance wasn't the typical circumstance. How did he get out of this situation? He was shot 9 times. Someone didn't like him, but yet he still is here, and every single day he's able to do something more and be more. Now, let's take a look at Ben Carson. Similar situation. where his mother, when he was younger, was suicidal and depressed, when his father had passed away or when they had separated. And there was a time when Ben was younger, he was separated from his father because the mother and father separated. And so he was living with his mom. And then he had to decide, well, what do I do? And in his book, The Gifted Hands, he talks about how he was trying to fit in with the crowd and he would buy all these clothes and all these jeans, and he didn't have the money for it. His family didn't have the money for it. But he was determined, though. He had a dream of becoming a doctor of some form. And though his circumstance might have been, well, I can just hang out with these kids and I can try to fit in and get all these clothes, his circumstance was different. Now let's take a look at Oprah Winfrey. Same thing, right? This is a woman who came up from not much, but she was able to create something profound in her life. Now she is going to be a wonderful role model, not only for women, but for people trying to get to a better type of mindset. Not saying that if she can, we can, but she had something in her mind that helped her get out of that way of thinking of, this is my circumstance, this is what's for me. Then we go back to another hip hop artist, and that's going to be Cardi B. Now Cardi B is going to have went through a rough childhood, and then even when she was going to be trying to get into stardom, she did many different things that might be seen as negative. What she wanted was she wanted to get out of that lifestyle. She didn't want to stay there. So she did all she had to do to get out of that lifestyle. She was determined to change her life. Then we get into other people like Madonna. She's had a rough past and she was able to come out of negative situations on top. Because yes, this is another person who could have allowed their circumstances to define who they were. But instead, they decided to change those circumstances and make something better for them. Same thing with Jim Carrey. He was in the beginning stages of his career and he's trying to figure out how can he make it? How can he make it big? And what he did was he put it out into the universe, like the law of attraction type of thinking, where he was basically telling himself, I'm going to make this happen. It's going to happen. Determination, the mindset on what that is. It's a lot to it, but in all retrospect, it all deals with the mindset. So in today's blog, we're talking about the interpretation of how our mind views different things. And in this blog, I highly recommend you read this because you get to get a good understanding of how your mind is. Because your situation doesn't depict whether you're going to have a good life or a bad life. You choose if you're going to have a good life or a bad life, but it depends on how you view the world, how you view situations. And I talk about optimism and pessimism in this blog, but it's not the primary reason of why people do things or not. And I also give a story of two boys that I talk about quite often on the podcast. And we're going to dive into that story in just a little bit, but just understanding that this blog is going to be here for you to use, for you to read, for you to understand that your mindset is determined by you and your circumstances can be changed. You have to come up and be able to see the difference between what you want and what you have. And if what you have is not what you want, then we have to start to change something, huh? Change is going to be one of those things that are not going to be easy. You might want to have change in your life, but you don't even know where to begin. And I think that was me at some point in my life, probably like when I was in high school. I wanted to make a change, but I didn't even know where to begin. So I was doing a lot of trial and error. There was no podcast for me to listen to that would give me the answers, that would help me along the way. There was no mindset coach that could help me see how I was thinking and then formulate a plan how to get out of it. Now, just because you get a mindset coach or you read this blog doesn't mean you're going to change your life. Sometimes people stay in their old habits because it's easy for the brain, it's easy for the body to stay exactly where it is. So if we don't have to push in our days, then we won't. But for those people who decide to make a change in their life, that are determined to have a different future for themselves, that was not their circumstances or their environment, those people have a different type of mindset. They have a mindset that's determined and is going to be focused on their dreams, their goals, their ambitions. The story that I was going to tell you so you can get a good understanding of perception and mindset is that there were two boys growing up together. It was part of the nuclear family. There was a mother and a father. The mom stayed home and the father would go off and go to work. Now, the father would come home and he would drink, and he would also beat his wife because he was drunk. He was upset. He didn't like his current circumstances, his life, his job. So he took it out on the person who loved him the most, his wife, because she probably wouldn't do anything. Because at that time, women would stay in a home with an abusive man because they didn't have a better ultimatum. Now, yeah, she could have went with her mom, a sister, a cousin, something like that. But typically what's going on in the mind of an average person, especially during those times, is that they're saying, all my needs are met, my basic needs are met. Yes, this is rough, where I have to be mentally abused, physically abused, but it's better than being on the street and suffering. Because if I'm on the street and I'm cold, or if it's summer and I'm hot, or if I don't have food to eat, that's going to be a worse situation for me, or for the brain rather. Because the brain is going to say, well, yeah, I get a few black eyes or I get a few bruises here and there, but it's not enough most of the time, especially during those times, for the mind to say, hey, let's change this. In our society today, that won't fly. So if you have a male coming home and beating on the woman, either the man's going to jail or the wife is going to go out and she's going to either find someone who can love and care for her, or she's going to go out and be single and handle her own business. So times have changed from back then in the day, but the story is that she stayed with the husband. So continuing with the story, the two boys saw what was happening in the home. The boys saw their father abusing their wife, yelling at the wife, screaming at the wife, coming home, drinking. They had an option. They could either follow in his footsteps, or they can say, well, I don't really like this. One of the boys followed in his father's footsteps. When he grew up, he had a wife, he had a job he didn't like, and he would come home and he would drink his sorrows away. And he didn't abuse his wife physically, but mentally, yes, by yelling and screaming and berating. Though his father might have been abusive, he might have said, I'm not going to hit my wife, I'm just going to yell at her. Okay, I guess we're getting somewhere good, huh? But then there's another boy, the other boy, the second son. Well, this boy was a successful business owner. He had a magazine company, and he was able to make something out of his life. He had a wife, a loving family, and he didn't even touch the bottle. Alcohol was not a part of his evening routine because he understood how destructive alcohol was. So when both of the boys were asked, well, why is their situation like so? And they both responded the same, because I watched my father. So we had one boy who watched his father and did almost the exact same thing, being alcoholic, coming home, abusing the wife. And then we have one boy who also learned from his father saying, I don't want to be like him. So he would come home to a loving family, support his family, found a career that he loved and was successful in. What's the difference? Why was one person able to do this, but the other person wasn't? That is going to be all about mindset. We need to understand what that boy who learned from his father and saw the bad and wanted better, what was he thinking? How was he thinking? Because that's the key. If we can think in that manner, in those regards, we are going to be more primed to focus on what is coming our way rather than what is our way. Because the way that is now, or the way that is our parents, doesn't have to be our future. And I talk about in the blog some theories of why this happens. Why does someone stay in their circumstance? Because yeah, all those people I talked about earlier, they could have been just regular Joes, regular Karens. But guess what? They weren't. They didn't accept mediocrity. Why do people accept mediocrity? Why do people accept their circumstances? It's all about mindset. Are you determined to change your future? Are you determined to fulfill your dreams? And sometimes people, they go down the path and they might be on the right track, But guess what? They fall short. And what they do is that they decide, well, this is too hard or this is too difficult. So they don't push past their comfort zone and they stay exactly where they are. We need to get clear on our goals and what type of mindset is needed to get to those goals. And if you don't know what type of mindset you need to get to a goal, then it's time for you to get coaching, for you to get a good understanding of what you need in order to get to your goal. Because what you need is going to be different than what someone else might need. And right now you might be thinking, I don't have money to invest in myself. There's a collapse, there's a recession, there's high gas prices, high grocery bills, inflation is so high. Yes, we can look at the negative. But if you're determined to change your future and to change your outcome in your life, why not invest in yourself? Because you're the only person who's going to get you to your dreams and your goals. I can drag you all the way there, but you're going to just slide right back to your comfort zone and you're going to fall back to who you were. It's me being that support system. So when you want to run away, when you're in your fear zone, after you left your comfort zone, I'm there to say, hey, we're going to be all right. Let's keep going. Let's keep pushing until we get to our goal. And you have to have that trust. You have to have that bond with that coach. Yes, it's going to be scary in the beginning. I'm not going to lie. You're going to feel lost. You're going to feel stuck. You're going to feel all of these different things. But at the same time, you're also going to feel hope. You're going to feel that you're taking the right course of action. And you might not know how your dreams look or how you're going to get there. But what I can tell you is that you don't have to see the next step to take a step. You just have to be brave enough to do so. So this blog article that's going to be talking about how our mind interprets situations or our scenario is going to be another must read. And I'm just tossing out must read blogs every single week, it seems like, huh? And I understand that you might not want to read, but guess what? You don't have to read. You can actually copy and paste and you can put it into a translator or you can put it into a text-to-speech software. And you can just listen, similar to the podcast. What I will tell you is that when you read, it actually has a different impact to the brain. Because yes, I can just talk to you and read this to you. But if you take time to read this article, word for word, paragraph to paragraph, it's going to have a greater effect on your brain. It's going to be like the sticky glue rather than just the Post-it. We want this to stick. We want this to stay in our brain so we can get a good understanding that we are the people in charge of us. What makes that type of mindset? What gives our mindset the direction it needs to stay focused and on task? It's in this blog. And though we spoke about it briefly in today's episode, you want to make sure that you're on the right track on a consistent basis. Every day you have to check in. Not saying you can't take a break, but you have to understand and remain determined on how your mindset is looking at your life and what it wants. So now that you have an understanding of what your brain wants or how it naturally gravitates toward, now you can start to see, well, what is the reason why I don't have what I have? Why don't I have the life that I want quite yet? And for me, it was a question. Was I happy? Was I happy with my circumstances, with my current life, with my current trajectory of my goals? I have come to the conclusion that, yes, I did have a good life. Yes, I would have still been good in my life and I would have had money still. I would have had all the things that I could desire materially, but intrinsically, I would have not been fulfilled. I would have found that happiness wasn't waiting for me at the end of my goal. So my goal, it seems like it always surprises me, where, to be honest, this podcast, I never thought I was going to have a podcast over 150 episodes. To be honest, I said if I did have a podcast, I would stop at episode 100. That would be plenty of episodes for people to listen to and to get into a better mindset. Well, I guess I have a lot to say, because here we are over 150 episodes of the podcast, approaching 200. And when 200 comes, what am I going to say? Well, 200 is here and I was able to accomplish 200 episodes. Time to move on. And these episodes are not short. They're not like 5 or 6 minute episodes, how I see some people do their podcasts. And I always find that to be interesting, where they record a 5-minute episode or a 6-minute episode and it might be concise to what they're talking about, and they're being very specific, and it's easy for the person to listen to. But for me, whenever I'm driving, the last thing I want to do is to keep clicking a different podcast episode. I want to listen to something that's going to last the drive typically. And typically, most people are going to go to work, maybe a 15 to 30 minute drive. So if it's going to take you 30 minutes to get to work, guess what? The episode is about 30 minutes, so you're going to have a smooth ride all the way to work, listening to some coaching in session. Now, maybe you live close to your job, so it might take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, right? You can listen to half when you're going to work and the rest on the way home. Or if you wanted to listen to in the gym, you can get a good quick 30-minute workout. So they're just different ways or different viewpoints that I make sure the podcast is laid out, because I have an understanding of what I want for this business, what I want for this podcast. And at the same time, I understand what I want for my life. And this whole blog that we talked about, interpretation of the mindset, is going to be talking about what do you want for your life. And many times people are not going to have a good understanding of what they want for their life. They just kind of take what they get, similar to how we get into that mindset of waiting for Superman or waiting for someone to come save us. We are the hero of our own story. How we view our situation can be on the optimistic side or on the pessimistic side. We have to determine how we need to view a situation and how that's going to help us. Because even if the first son in the story that we spoke about today saw the negative and he went down that road and he became alcoholic and he was abusing his wife, he could have had an epiphany. I'm ending up like my father. And I might have told myself when I was younger, I don't want to end up like my father. Or I accept what has happened and then I'm making the change because it's not making me happy. Many people think happiness is one of those things like it's a destination or it's going to be for those rare few people. No, you can change your circumstance. You just have to want it. And not enough people will remain determined to get it. So if you're interested in making sure you get to your goals, get to your dreams, and getting to happiness, you do have to start with your mindset. And whether you do that by just watching coaching in session, reading the blog articles, or getting coaching, that's going to be dependent on you. When you finally get to the point where you're like, I had enough, investing in yourself becomes easy. But why wait to that trauma? Why wait to that moment when you can change your life right now and today? My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone, take care.